Soup, soup, let's start the show.
And welcome to the Neverdaily podcast. It's Chase, it's me, and Jeff.
And Jeff.
Jeff is back. Jeff missed the last backdoor because he was one of the first in, and something crazy is happening where he just clicks on the normal link that we send out, which is the audience link for the backdoor, and the Riverside, the online studio place that we use, just asked him to update the app. So he updates his app, and now he's a host of the show.
Yeah.
It literally, underneath his name, it says Jeff Walnoffer, host. So I literally can't kick him off. He'd have to find his own way out. So he's on the show today. We've asked him to mute because I don't want him to miss another backdoor, because every single time he logged in last time, he wasn't in the backdoor anymore. He was a host of the show.
But Riverside says that's impossible.
Yeah, they totally gaslit us and was like, that's impossible. That's not even a thing. And I Q&A'd him before this. I may even send this clip to Riverside just for their tech support. I asked him, I'm like, have you ever been a host on a show? Have you ever been a guest host on a show? He's like, no. To just kick things off and to make Jeff feel a little bit welcome. Jeff, if you want, unmute and I'd love to see your bird. I think our audience would love to see your bird. You've got a beautiful
that can be a
shoulder.
cheat.
There's Jeff. There, look at that bird. That is a beautiful bird. And Jeff, what did you say the bird's name was?
Smokey.
That is beautiful. Oh, look at that. So Jeff is here with Smokey. And Jeff, are you having a good day?
Oh, I just got off work. So yeah, I am.
Oh man. So do you work is it a really early shift or is it a late night shift that goes into the...
Yeah, I go in at 12:30 in the morning. I'm a truck driver. So I usually get done about this time of day.
Is it local or regional truck driving, or how do you...
Yeah, I just drive local to South Carolina from here in North Carolina.
Cool.
For a grocery company.
Nice. And then you come home and you're one of our 12. You're one of the you're one of our people that show up on this. And then do you go to bed like after?
Yeah, I usually go to bed about 4.
Dude. And then you wake up and start it all over again. Do you have days off or?
Yeah, the weekends, Saturday and Sunday.
Okay. Well, that's nice, right? I mean, at least you're keeping some kind of normal human schedule, so that's cool. Well, we and all of the grocery consumers of the Carolinas are grateful for your pedal to the metal.
Yeah, I listen to you all the time on there, so y'all keep me occupied while I'm driving.
Well, that's great. Well, hopefully, we're grateful for that, because sometimes I do this show and I'm like, why? So that's good to know.
Every day.
And it's nice to have you as a host. It's nice to have you as a host on the show now. So we don't know how long that'll last. You know, if this continues to last, we may need to put you on the payroll. Gotta
pay the bill.
Gotta pay the bills. That's right. Okay, cool, Jeff. Well, thanks for being on the show. We'll
Can I ask one question?
Yeah, man.
Have you heard the Pender County, North Carolina 911 call? Have you heard
Pender
that?
County? I don't think so. Pender County.
It's really creepy. It's not a crime one. It's like kind of like a paranormal spooky thing. It's really weird.
Oh, well, yeah. Google said, I started typing Pender County 911, and it came up with Pender County 911 call not human. And okay, dude, I'm gonna check this out, and if it's cool, I'll use it on the next 911 that I'm gonna record.
Say, hey,
I'll,
Angie, I
I'll
work
give
for
you a shout
Publix,
out.
Angie.
Oh,
Okay.
you get look. Jeff's even get some shout outs in the back door. So, yes.
Okay, I got to go eat dinner, but I'm sorry to step in. I didn't know all this was gonna happen, man. It's crazy.
Hey, we're glad you're here.
Mhm.
We're glad. I'm just glad that you're not missing another back door. I felt really bad the last time because I was watching the back door. I think I even said it on recording. I was like, Jeff had to like not show up because he he'll either host or nothing.
Oh, nothing.
So we're glad you're here,
Mhm.
and we'll let you get back to your dinner.
Thank you. Take care.
You too.
See
Okay,
ya.
so Jeff will be there in a dark black box on the side of the episode. And
to answer Sarah's question, in my tea is Arnold Palmer. Just the Arizona brand Arnold Palmer. It's delicious.
Yep. If Chase is ever drinking something, it's either out of the gallon jug of Arizona tea, Arnold Palmer, or similar, or
it's pre-workout.
Wait a sec.
Because I just want like 250 milligrams of caffeine real quick.
So you drink? Do you drink bucked up pre-workout?
Mm-hmm.
So you drink bucked up pre-workout to just do your day, like
just to get through my day. I like the nootropics. That's why. Because they have a pre-workout with nootropics in it, so I just do half scoops because it's way cheaper than like buying like energy drinks or whatever, or even it's just half doses, and you get more than just caffeine. You get the B12s and some good stuff. And Bucked Up is a good company. They have high quality products.
So I'm going to stand
Sponsor
up.
me, please, Bucked Up. I'll be your sponsor. I'll
sponsor
do it.
Chase. I'm going to stand up. I'm proud of this, so I want to show everybody my weight results right now. So
Looks like a normal human.
I lost 50 pounds. And I'm back in the gym. I was if anybody's ever met me at a convention or anything, there was a lot of me to hug. Enough,
How close are you to getting off your CPAP is the real question.
Dude, I haven't been on it for a couple months now.
Nice.
Yeah. So I was 278 and I'm like 220 right now. So like almost 60 pounds, I guess. Is that right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, enough about that. But when you have a significant weight loss, there's always a slice of people around you that'll be like, hey, how'd you do it? Like, what is it? And so I've come up with like a whole litany of like responses. I'm like, it's just overnight oats.
Just cancer.
Yeah, it's just cancer. But the truth is, and I've done it in a way, like I could never write a book because mine has literally been stay in a caloric deficit. I should be, based on my body composition, I should be consuming about 2,500 calories a day. I have been consuming somewhere probably around 700 to 900, which is not, it's no doctor would advise it that way. What's funny is a doctor will staple your stomach and then be like, now you just won't eat as much. And so he'll put you in a 900 calorie diet by stapling your stomach. So you pay him to do that, but he would never tell you you should be at 2,500 based on your composition, but just eat 900 if you can. It's a starvation method. So, but what's allowed me to do it, and this is, I'm kind of pull a bit of a Joe Rogan right now, is mine's injections, people. Like, and I've done a lot of research, and so the majority of my weight loss was I was doing an injection of something called retatrutide, and it was freaking amazing. It didn't make me sick. It didn't make me want to throw up. It didn't. All it did was it just took away my memories of eating throughout the day. And so I could knock out one meal and a snack maybe. My portions were always halved because my brain just said, you're done. You can't take another bite, which was great. For me, it was great. I started going to the gym early on when I was on it, and I found that with the deficit, because I was only consuming that many calories, it was really hard actually in the gym. I was like, I didn't have energy and everything. So I made a judgment call for myself, and I was just like, you know what? I've got a lot of visceral fat, like fat around my organs and fat on the end, brown fat, all that inside of my gut. And I was like, I'm just gonna set that as my goal. I'm gonna lose that, and then I will swap to a healthier eating plan. And I switched to another injection called tirzepatide. And same, honestly, same. Very similar. The only side effect of these has been that I have a constant flu skin. Like my skin feels,
and constant UTI.
Yeah, that too. And I got non-gonococcal urethritis, but I think that was just from needle sharing. No, but my skin, like it's that sore skin, like you got the flu, and I'm sure everybody can relate with that. But that's always there. But for me, it was like, this is fine. I'll just deal with it because I need to lose the weight. And I did, and I did it. And then in addition to that, the world is full of a bunch of other things, other supplements, and there's a million out there. I have been taking a peptide called ceramorelin, it's a synthetic peptide that mimics growth hormone releasing hormone GHRH, prompting the pituitary gland to naturally produce and release human growth hormone HGH. So I've been taking ceramorelin, which is another injection, and then I've been woefully low on testosterone, so I've been doing that. And then also a thing called NAD+, which
finally getting some NADs into you.
Yep, get some NADs, and that's a vital coenzyme in every cell, crucial for energy production, DNA repair, and metabolic signaling. But its levels decline with age, leading to age-related issues. Supplementing with NAD+ precursors like NMN or NR aims to boost cellular levels to improved health. So it's sort of like it's a DNA cleanse of it's a cleanse at a molecular level. Anyway, can't recommend it for everybody because it's weird, but it's worked for me, and I feel a lot better than I ever did. I'll probably modify that at some point. Definitely, if you're going down the road of anything with injections, make sure you're talking to a medical professional. But we are living in a day and age where I'm convinced now that old ways of doing things may not be the best. Some of this stuff has question marks on, like, am I going to lose my eyesight early? I don't know. But I'm also always been very suspicious of certain things. So like when something like when any one of these injections hits the market, for example, you talk to a doctor or people in the medical community, they instantly will mock it because it hasn't been, like, let's just say something hits the market and it's not FDA approved. They will mock it because they can't figure out how to monetize it yet. And so it's not in their vocabulary. And so the best thing to do, it's kind of like with archaeologists, they'll mock anything that's new. And then what do you know? Like a year later, suddenly it's like in the mainstream and they're like, oh, couldn't recommend it enough, So I've always been kind of a suspicious Susan when it comes to that kind of stuff. So don't do what I did, but that's what I did. And I lost 50 pounds in 6 months. So yeah, that's too much, by the way. That's too much to lose in 6 months, I think. I mean,
thermodynamics.
It's a hard go, but
yeah.
Anyway, enough
you can
about
never
me.
out-train a bad diet. Let's put it that way.
You can't. Yeah. And there's a lot of statistics out there on how much you should be, what's a healthy weight loss per week, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, but it's at the end of the day, you cannot train a bad diet, and losing weight is 95% your diet and 5%
losing
what you do.
fat is 100% caloric deficit.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, I'm confident that you don't need to be a doctor or a professional to say that. Like, anyone that tells you that you can lose fat and not be in a caloric deficit, don't listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about this before, so that's all I'll say.
If they're trying to sell you something at the end of their video, then they're trying to sell you something at the end of their video. Just put it that way. Don't do this because you need to take this supplement that I made.
Yes. Well, that's the funny thing, is they always have a solution for you that's not the one that they just can't peddle. And one of the people I'm most dependent on is my doctor, because I love him. He almost quit being a doctor because he worked for a hospital network, and he could not stand what they were pushing him to prescribe and the treatments and routines and regimens and everything. He almost quit. And so he started again from, I don't want to say a holistic standpoint, but he dropped the I'll take insurance, he's a subscription pay now.
Mm-hmm.
And when I go talk to him, I could be sitting in there an hour talking to him, and he's like, it's fine. It's fine. We're good. I love it. It's there. Like I said, there's new ways of doing things. I think the medical community is figuring it out. The people are figuring it out. And sometimes we have a tendency to trust our doctors implicitly, which is fine. That's okay. But sometimes innovation, I think AI is playing a big role in medical innovation these days. So the populace gets a hold of something before the medical community does, and it forces their hand. I truly believe like that's like the Ozempic. Ozempic is a good example of that. They figured out, oh, well, it's for insulin issues and everything. Oh, but also everyone in Hollywood could afford it. And so it just, the momentum that it picked up enough momentum that then the medical community is like, well, maybe we should just offer it for everybody. And then what do you know?
All that stuff does is it just rewires your brain to not have cravings. Weird.
Yeah. And I'm not saying...
They also issue it to people who are quitting, hardcore drug use. Yeah. Because it literally tells your brain, you don't need that dopamine hit, boy. Just keep on moving on.
Will I lose a leg in 10 years? I don't know yet. But also, they don't know when they put you on half the things they put you on.
But you were going to lose that leg to diabetes anyways, so it's kind of as a wash at this point.
Yep. Hey, how about I share a couple things from our friends at This Is True? I've got a happy, healthy little list today.
Okay.
And I checked it over to make sure we haven't done them. So
and you checked it twice?
I don't know. At least once while we were talking. While you were telling me how your day was, I was not listening. Just kidding.
I always can see the reflection in your glasses.
You see where my eyes are, and I'm like, "How are you?" And then I'm like, on the keyboard.
It's like I can see through your glasses when you're rolling your eyes at me.
All right, here's a couple things from our friends at This Is True. Lost to fine print. The parents of 16-year-old Adam Rain have sued OpenAI and their CEO, Sam Altman. The wrongful death suit accuses ChatGPT of actively discouraging Rain from seeking help for his mental health issues, helping him write a suicide note, and even giving advice on setting up a noose so he could die by suicide. OpenAI has responded to the suit, quote, to the extent that any cause can be attributed to this tragic event, plaintiffs' alleged injuries and harm were caused or contributed to directly and proximately, in whole or in part, by Adam Rain's misuse unauthorized use, unintended use, unforeseeable use, and or improper use of ChatGPT. It kind of makes me wonder, did they have ChatGPT's help in writing that?
Yes.
In other words, they say it's not ChatGPT or OpenAI's fault because Rain violated the company's terms of service, while OpenAI is violating the terms of humanity.
Oh my gosh.
It's very similar to how Jeff is a host of the show now. And I'm like, hey, Riverside, we got a problem. Like,
no,
this is a super, like, I can laugh about it, but it's a super giant security risk.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly he's the host of the show. What, by the way, like, what else does Jeff have access to now in my account? Like, could he do? What could he do?
Publishing all sorts of stuff under your name and
publish it, delete it.
Yeah.
Check out what bank account I'm using. Oh, one thing I could have Jeff's help with if he wanted is he could go and put his credit card or debit card on the subscription fee. I'd be okay with that, Jeff, if you want to do that, buddy. Anyway, all right, here's another one.
Neverdaily, now brought to you by Jeff.
Just Jeff. I'd love that. That'd be awesome. Jeff just interrupts whenever he wants, but we let him because he's paying for it. So.
Yeah. This is my show now.
He's like, the next half hour, you're gonna listen to my pets, Smokey, my bird. All right, here's the next one. No longer smiling. The Marshall County, Alabama Sheriff's Office worked with local cops in Guntersville. I served part of my mission in Guntersville. And other agencies for a classic sting operation targeting men hoping to have sex with quote-unquote children.
Oh, quote-unquote. Huh?
In parentheses, undercover cops posting on social media. Sure enough, men started showing up. Edward Maddox, 55, of Ashland, was arrested, charged with traveling to meet a child for unlawful act and human trafficking, and jailed without bond. Then Caden Wilson, age 19, of Guntersville, was arrested, charged with traveling to meet a child for an unlawful act and human trafficking, and jailed without bond. But Jack Andrew Smiley, age 27, of Muncie, Indiana, wasn't having any of it. He, quote, resisted arrest by attempting to flee, said Sheriff Phil Sims, and pulled a gun.
You don't do that.
Officers shot him before
do
Smiley could shoot first. He was killed. He brought a gun for a child. Police supplied the bullets. Fight? Yeah, he brought a gun to a child fight. But ask yourself this. Why did Smiley have a gun if he was going to meet it? Like that
Maybe
creeps me out.
One of those dudes who's always strapped.
Always strapped.
Yeah,
I guess.
This, like, I just saw a video the other day, and it was on Patrol Live or Live PD, whatever they call it now. And it's literally this guy works security at Walmart on the side. He's an off-duty cop, but he works security as an extra job for Walmart.
Yeah.
And so they catch this couple shoplifting. They take them in. So a lot of people don't know, like, the entrance to Walmart, there's like a door on the left entrance.
Yeah.
And that's where, like, the security guys, like, if you get caught shoplifting, they'll put you in that little cinder block room, wait for the cops if they're going to have you arrested, whatever.
Right.
So he's in there just, like, inventorying what this couple has stolen. And the kid keeps, like, kind of turning in his seat weird. All of a sudden, he comes out with a gun.
Oh.
Like, this is over, like, literal petty theft.
Was it in I was looking at something on the back door. Was this happening in like a hospital on a hospital gurney?
No, it was in a Walmart in their loss prevention room.
Yes, he's sitting next to his girlfriend.
Yeah, and all of a sudden he pulls out a gun, points it at the officer, pulls the trigger, and there's not one in the chamber.
It doesn't go off.
So then he racks the slide, points it at the cop again, pulls the trigger, and nothing happens. So then he goes to rack the slide again, and by then one of the Walmart security, one of the other guys, like, tackles him to the chair, and they're able to get the gun away from him. But yeah, over petty theft, he gets attempted murder charges because he literally pointed a gun at some off-duty cop's head and pulled the trigger, and it's on camera. And then he does it again.
Yeah.
Like over, and this is over literally like $20-something and stuff. Like imagine killing someone over $20-something worth of Walmart goods.
So there's backstory behind that. It's worth finding the video we're talking about. You can find it. Just find Walmart theft pulls gun on officer. You'll find it. It's everywhere. There's a couple things about this. So part of the backstory is he has a criminal history, and it was one of those kind of situations where he's like, I can't go back, kind of thing. Here's what's haunting. The gun pull and everything has made itself into like a clickbait video meme at this point. Like it's distributed everywhere, and people are like, what the heck? So you click through and you watch it. What's most haunting is if you watch the minute prior to him pulling the gun, you watch his girlfriend side-eyeing him and looking at him, and you can tell she is like, pull the gun, do the thing. You can tell, like they are both complicit in this, and I believe the charges reflected that too. It wasn't just him that caught charges for that. Man, and then you watch the rest of the video, and it's one of those situations where it's sort of like that cop didn't even really wrap his head around the significance of what almost happened, kind of thing. Like it.
Well, it just like people want to pretend that they're like these armchair detectives and they know what they're talking about. Just seeing how quickly, though, it goes from like, well, let me get you information. I don't know if you're going to get arrested or not, to there's a gun pointed at someone's head.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just like everything's nonchalant. Like it just goes from like, yeah, you stole some candy bars to now you're trying to shoot me in the face.
Yeah.
Like and people just want to be like, especially when people like acting like the cops are supposed to know everything about them. Like, oh, I don't have a gun. It's like, how are they supposed to know? Like when you watch that video, just like some like skinny white kid, acting like he's strung out. Now he's got a gun in your face. Like, and there was no like lead up to that. There was no like emotions going up to that. Like people weren't yelling at each other. It was literally people just calmly sitting in a room. Next thing you know, there's a gun pointing at someone's head. And it's just like, and that's what cops have to deal with every day. But people want to pretend like they're supposed to be like omniscient and know everything.
Well, and that they're supposed to be the ones that are following the law. Every time a criminal gets dumped on the floor, instantly they start talking about their rights and how that hurts. You can't do this or you can't do that. Or like suddenly they're the Lincoln lawyer.
Yeah.
But 2 seconds before they had a total victim story about everything. It reminds me of when California had their $900 or $950 rule where it wasn't theft or they weren't going to pursue it. The world in California is fully aware. It's broadcast to everybody that wants to steal. And what's funny is that, the feelings police want to be like, man, these people need it. That's why they're stealing. What's weird about it, though, is as soon as the law changed, some people got arrested because they were too dumb to stop doing it after the law changed. But what's weird is you watched the number of thefts literally tank because word got out that the law changed. So they're not innocent. Oh my gosh, I had no idea. They know exactly what's going on, and they play both sides of it. I watched. Okay, this blew me away. There was this guy, this kid. He breaks into this house. There's 2 houses on the property. Mom lives in one house. Her daughter and a roommate live in the other. This kid breaks into the daughter's house. Ski mask, duct tape around the ski mask to his hoodie, so like it couldn't be pulled off. A giant axe in hand, and then knives. and he breaks in and he just starts rambling about he just wants to take the keys. He's going to take the keys and he's going to steal the car. And then it was like, I'll stab you. I'm going to hit you. I'm going to stab you. And he's like going crazy.
Mm-hmm.
One of them gets on 911. The mom comes over with a revolver and at the door. So the whole thing is filmed, right? One of the daughter or the roommate, I can't remember. One of them is filming this, right? And this is scrawny, like 16-year-old kid, blacked out completely, axe in hand, mom with the revolver. And she's like, drop the axe, take the mask off. Here's what the kid says. The kid says this to the mom. It's my right to conceal my identity. Like, you listen to what this kid said. He, like, somewhere, whether it's TikTok or the criminal community at large or whatever, like, we live in this weird world where we're no longer, we're all professionals in what our rights are, and we're wrong all the time, and no one's asking whether it's right at all. You know what I mean? So, like, this kid was so hung up on that it was his right to keep his identity concealed. Like, he's Antifa. Like, you know, like it's a thing. Like, it's a credible rule law that she should abide by. And she's like, you're in my home. And he's like, okay, granted, I'm in your home. And he was like, it was literally like he was trying to have like this defense prosecution going. I won't tell you how it ended because it doesn't end like you think it's going to. But I was like, seriously, that's the that's like the very general mentality out there is everyone's doing these crimes. The people that are doing these crimes are fully aware of the gates that are open that allow them to do the crimes. And then they're just as informed, they think, of their rights when and if they get caught.
Yeah.
And 95% of the time they're wrong.
It's like all the sovereign citizens who get pulled over and they're like, I can travel. Like, I don't know why cops don't say this more, but it's super simple. You go, yeah, you can travel. You can get on your two little footsies and just keep walking down the road and I can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you get to drive a car. Like, you need to prove that you know how to drive a car. Oh, I'm traveling. And it's just like, no, that's not how this works. You can travel. You can go to between states. You can go wherever you want. But it doesn't specify how you do it.
I'm not driving, I'm traveling.
Yeah, like, oh, I'm not flying this commercial jet. I'm traveling this commercial jet. I don't need a pilot's license to fly this. I'm traveling. I don't need that.
With sovereign citizens in particular, they're leaning on declarations that were written in the 1700s, where they think that no laws have superseded since, that it's like literally like written like the Bible, where it's like written into the lifeblood of our nation, these fundamental rights and everything. Some of them are, but you really should do a little bit of looking into the Constitution and its amendments to make sure that you're still in the right. Kind of like the people in California that once the law dropped that you couldn't go and steal $950 worth of anything, they just were like, okay, well, that's done. Can't do that anymore. You really you should, if you're a sovereign citizen, you should also look up, try typing this into YouTube, sovereign citizen wins.
Yeah.
It will probably say cannot find any results because it just really doesn't happen unless the cops really screw up. Here's one more thing on the California thing. There was during when the law was such that you know people could just go in and steal whatever they wanted and walk out. There was a store that marked everything priced at it was like $959. Everything was priced at that. So there was a sign on the door. Everything in this store is priced at $959. So you'll get dumped if you try to steal. It's kind of funny.
We'll apply the discount at checkout.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yes. All right. Let me give you a couple more. This is trues, and then we'll move on. Consta sheepish. The failure of my force in this case has been appalling. This is a quote. And I'm speechless as to the numerous errors and the hurt and impact, said Chief Constable Ivan Ballhatchet of the Northamptonshire, England police. The case grew out of the arrest of Nadine Buzzard Quashie on charges that were dropped shortly thereafter. Buzzard Quashie accused the police of pushing her face into stinging nettles. Ouch. Police were ordered to give her the body cam footage of her arrest, but they didn't. The force was found to have been, quote, willfully disobedient and in contempt of court. A fine of £50,000, around $66,230 US, was imposed on Ball Hatchett to be paid from his agency's funds. So Ball Hatchett was the chief constable. Lord Justice Fraser said jailing a top cop for contempt would be exceptional and unusual. If you don't keep it exceptional and unusual for police to be willfully disobedient to courts, there's not much point having courts or laws. So had to pay £50,000 for pushing her face into stinging nettles.
That's why, as I had one of my teachers tell me in college, you always comply with the police. That was his job. He was a criminal attorney, and said you always comply with the police. And if they do illegal stuff, he said that's what my job's for. And he says, and I will get you paid. And he says, just remember, no matter what they're doing, if it's wrong, and you have a witness or something, he's like, I'll get you money. He's like, you will get paid. And he's like, there's no point in you fighting the cops there. He's like, you don't hold court on the side of the road. You don't hold it in the grocery store when you're being accused of shoplifting. He says, you hold court in court. And he says, and that's what I get paid to do. And that's why I make money for my clients.
Everyone knows, like, I'm very pro law enforcement. I think they have a massive burden on their hands in trying to uphold the law and to do their job to protect and serve, and all day long show up on, 911 calls and other emergencies as first responders. Is there corruption that happens? Yes. Are there cops that are lording their authority? Yes. But I'll, even being pro law enforcement thing, I'll tell you that there's this kind of, I think it's probably born out of Hollywood, where we believe that by staying silent during an encounter with the police somehow indicates your guilt. Like, or it'll be like later down the road, it'll be like, well, they didn't say anything when we asked them a bunch of questions, so obviously they're guilty. No, they have to prove your guilt, right? And so if there's one thing that I'd recommend to anybody, is the more silent you are, the better for you.
Yeah.
Like, just because a police officer says, do you know why I pulled you over? You don't have to answer. Like, you don't, just remember, you don't ... Okay. And you leave it up to them. And then, like you said, you're never going to settle something on the side of the road by pleading your case. If a police officer pulled you over for X, Y, or Z, that's not the place to do it.
Anytime you get a ticket for any reason, they literally say, this is not an admission of guilt. They legally have to tell you
when
that.
you sign anything.
Yeah. They literally say to you at, like, right before you sign it, they go, this is not an admission of guilt, because that's how the law is set up, right? So you can sign whatever you want. Just know, because it's not an admission of guilt. And they know that. And so that's the court's job, is to find guilt and find fault. Like, that's literally what court is for.
We all become roadside lawyers. I see it all the time watching the body cam where people are like, you never read me my Miranda rights. There are a lot of reasons when and why they don't have to read you Miranda rights. So don't believe that you know everything on the side of the road, or you know enough. Just shut up. That's the best thing to do, is be quiet. And if that feels like, someone's telling you to not exercise your rights or authority, okay, then you better be really smart. Because one, you might be being pulled over by a authority blind police officer where you weren't in the wrong at all. Just let it play out, you know? if that sounds like an inconvenience on your time and energy, you're up against someone who's not using their authority properly. So let it play out. And, anyway, here's one more for you. Be careful what you ask for. Interpol contacted the Florida Department of Law Enforcement to alert them that Sonia Exelby, age 32, who had been reported missing from her home in Portsmouth, England, had flown to Gainesville, Florida, and was supposed to fly back 3 days later. She missed her return flight. Worse, UK authorities said Exelby had mental health diagnoses and found evidence on her computer that she was planning to travel to be possibly sexually abused, tortured, and murdered by unknown individuals living in the United States. Let me say that again. She was planning to travel, quote, to be possibly sexually abused, tortured, and murdered by unknown individuals living in the United States. FDLE, I believe that's Florida law enforcement detectives, found a roadside assistance service had made multiple attempts to charge Exelby's debit card before successfully making a $1,200 charge. They interviewed the owner of that service, Dwayne Hall, age 53, who was vague about the services rendered. Tracking on his cell phone put him at the airport when Exelby arrived, as well as her Airbnb. They also found a deleted video on his phone where he asks an apparently beaten Exelby, quote, "This is how you wanted to die, right?" His phone also showed he was later in a wooded area. Detectives went there and found Exelby's body in a shallow grave, along with Hall's DNA. They also recovered Hall's knife, idiot, which has Exelby's blood on it. Hall, who is married, has been charged with first-degree murder and is likely, prosecutors will seek the death penalty. Mental health diagnosis explains her, but what the heck explains him?
Yeah. That's messed.
Man.
Ooh. It's like, that reminds me of, who was that one dude in Germany who paid the dude to eat him? Volunteered for it.
Put out a request, and in the request, it was like looking for someone to be butchered and eaten. It was in the request, and then
somebody
it got served.
Somebody replied to it and said, "I'll do it."
Yeah, and it was videoed and everything.
Yeah.
That was pretty
Some
crazy.
weird people out there, man.
I can't remember if I mentioned this, but there's something very interesting happening in Africa, amongst countries where they have dictators. And the more involved you get with like voting and everything, the more you might be aware that voting and the mechanism of voting is something that politicians and people can actually use and manipulate for their own benefits. For example, there was a scenario a handful of years ago during a voting session in I want to say it was Brooklyn, where the mayor was charged with election tampering. Tampering, I believe, is what it was, because he had scheduled maintenance on the bridges going into Brooklyn, because the epicenter of the city center of Brooklyn leaned one way politically, but anything over the bridges leaned another way. So by slowing and inhibiting traffic over the bridges during the voting hours, he could affect change, right? So there's a very interesting thing that's happening. I mean, the world would be crushing dictators left and right if we had a bunch of dictators who are like, we're never having elections. I'm it. I mean, it happens. Like Xi Jinping has said that he's the leader. He's going to be the leader till he dies, but that's China. Obviously North Korea is the same kind of story, but it's not all dictators that do that. So what they do is they hold sham elections, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they muscle their people and they commit election fraud. Well, there's something very interesting happening in several places in Africa where the dictators, one in particular, he came and announced on television that anyone found that it was illegal to download this app called BitChat. BitChat. Have I mentioned this already?
I don't think so.
Okay. BitChat. And if it sounds like you've never heard it before, you probably haven't, but you probably will soon. I feel like it's 2009, and I'm saying, if you ever heard of Twitter, if you haven't heard of Twitter, you will soon. Why do I say that? I say that because BitChat was created by the creator of Twitter, Jack Dorsey. So Jack Dorsey, one of his latest things is BitChat. And now what makes BitChat very unique is it does not need internet to chat. It works off of Bluetooth, which has a limited range of about 300 feet or so. But basically anyone that has BitChat on their phone, so I have it on my phone, let's say my neighbor has it on his phone, we can communicate and distribute messages between us. You get enough people in an area that have BitChat, you could disseminate messages completely protocol-less, well, other than Bluetooth, but you wouldn't need cell towers, you wouldn't need internet, you wouldn't need anything. It's completely boots on the ground kind of an app. It has its limitations. You get away too far, Bluetooth can't reach.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to be able to communicate. But you think of the momentum that happens when you start having people that get within 300 feet of each other and they all have BitChat on their phone. They can communicate a bunch of stuff. So this dictator says, you can't download BitChat, which makes a bunch of people go, I'm going to go download BitChat.
Yeah.
And so because BitChat is, and now this is really interesting because BitChat is now becoming this tool to democratize change in these countries where they're looking to maybe overthrow a dictator through voting, right?
Well, I mean, right now it's happening in Iran. They're literally putting internet blackouts, rolling blackouts so people can't communicate with each other. So
Exactly.
where BitChat would still work.
Yep. And so things like that where you can communicate without the internet, without something that could be turned on or off by an overlord is becoming a powerful tool. Now, why is this really interesting is that Jack Dorsey seems to be like this prophet of sorts in that he's built two tools now that literally have changed the face of the world in that he's created these mechanisms for communicating things. Some people might remember several years ago, the Arab Spring, which was an uprising in the Middle East, very squarely could be the communication, visibility, and awareness of what was happening could be put on the shoulders of Twitter as a technology. Without Twitter, we wouldn't have had the uprising. There wouldn't have been the Arab Spring that we saw happen. And again, he's created something where it's like, holy crap, we don't like most people don't know about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I have it on my phone, but it's literally useless if nobody else has it. So it's one of those things where I'll bet within the next 5 years, no one will be like, everyone will know what BitChat is. You've got it for XYZ reasons, or at least it'll grow out of these countries where the need is there, where, someone's turning your internet off for political reasons or nefarious reasons. So kind of interesting. Hey, Chase.
Hey, what's up?
What did you bring today?
I brought a story about a witch. Helen Duncan.
Witches.
Have you ever heard of Helen Duncan?
No, but I hope she's not from the Salem trials because that would be a terrible last name.
No, so Helen Duncan is technically Britain's last witch.
Oh.
So she was the last witch who went on trial for witchcraft.
Okay.
So if you had to guess, what year do you think she was born? If she was the last woman as an adult put on trial for witchcraft?
Oh, well, I'd want to go back to the 1490s, but I'm gonna say it's gonna be more shocking than that. So maybe I don't know. Unless she really eked by a lot of police and government stuff, I'm gonna put it in the 1500s somewhere.
Well, you're wrong. She was
Okay.
born in 1897. She missed the 1900s by 3 years. That's when
so
she was born.
made it into the 1900s as a witch.
Yeah, so she was 3 years old in the 1900s, and she would grow up to be the last woman prosecuted for witchcraft in the United Kingdom.
Okay.
So she had like a weird career in growing up. She basically, and you're going to see this later, she made a living by swallowing cloth and then throwing it back up. So just keep that in mind. That was her shtick, okay?
All right.
So, here's a background. So Helen Duncan was born in 1897 in Callander, Scotland, which is already starting us off in a place where believing in supernatural nonsense feels reasonable, because guess where Hogwarts is? It's in Scotland.
Oh.
So
is it really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, so if you read the books, it's in the Scottish Highlands is where Hogwarts is officially located. And it could be real, like maybe we're just muggles and it's just a big joke. And anyways, so
what's interesting about that, what I find interesting about that is that I think general understanding would be, everybody would be like, well, this is happening in England somewhere. Mm-hmm. Like we wouldn't put it in Scotland. So that's an interesting fact.
That's where she starts out, and she's born in Scotland. And so she starts out working her first job. She works at a bleachery, and I think that's pretty self-explanatory. It's a real job where you bleach things white. That's what she did. Oh. She just made things that were not white into things that were white using bleach. Okay. So this is in the 1920s. She's working in the bleaching industry. And she's like, I don't want to do this job anymore. It's kind of tough. Like, you're working with bleach all day. I'm sure there's a lot of chemical fumes, and you probably don't feel very well after work. And so she's just like, I want a new job. So what do you think she goes into? Like, if you're working in the bleaching fields,
if I got like really tired,
job,
if I got really sick of being in the bleaching field and I wanted to do something super different, I'd go into from bleachery to dirtery.
Yes. No, she actually went into becoming a spiritualist medium, because that's a normal career progression.
Yeah.
So, you're now a medium. So she's now a medium, and I don't know like what her career counselor was thinking, but she's just like, you know what? I think I'm going to talk to dead people for money instead of bleaching stuff with bleach and chemical burning myself on the daily. And her career person was like, that sounds like a good job. You should do that. So she's like, cool. So she starts traveling around Britain. So this is where she leaves Scotland, goes to Great Britain. She starts doing seances with spirits who would allegedly materialize and speak to grieving family members. So she would actually produce ectoplasm during her seances. Right?
Really?
So what is ectoplasm, using your layman's terms?
I feel like ectoplasm is a substance that is made of ethereal otherworldly atoms. Like it's the closest I would say we have to, like if it was a real scientific thing, it'd be the closest thing we have to dark matter or something from another dimension would be the way I'd put it.
So Helen's out here, and that's pretty much what the general term or acceptance definition of ectoplasm. And so she's like, hey, I wonder what it would look like. It would probably look a lot like a white cloth-like substance. And so she's like, cool, I'm going to just make my own ectoplasm out of cheesecloth. Or occasionally it looks like pantyhose. Or stockinette undervests, which were originally primitive pantyhose.
Oh.
So what she would do, she would swallow cheesecloth or stocking hose material. And then during her seances, the lights are really dark and there's like minimal lighting. She would then literally throw this up, regurgitate this material, and then she would shape it on her face like in the dark. And then she would talk as if she was a ghost. And that was the ghost, coming out of the otherworldliness and taking possession of her. So that's what she was literally doing. She's literally out here regurgitating cloth, putting it on her face and pretending to talk as a ghost.
Which I gotta say, like, if she's literally throwing it up, I can't think of anything. I'd be gagging the whole time I'm trying to talk through a piece of cloth that I threw up. I'd be like, I'm the ghost of.
So it made it sound more realistic, I guess.
Maybe they're like, why does she? Yeah, it sounds. I didn't know GERD made it all the way to the other side.
So basically, Helen became a professional vomiter, while pretending it was all spooky, supernatural. That's literally her business model. Come watch me throw up ghosts for $5 or £5. So that was pretty much her thing. She did that for years and years. And she made money. She made a living off this. People are literally paying her money to sit in a dark room with her, watch her throw up fabric scraps before spreading them on her own face and saying ghosts are speaking through her. It's like, yep, that's definitely my dead Uncle Harold speaking through that smelly-ass dimensional cheesecloth. That's him. I can tell. So this is where Helen Duncan's story goes from weird small-time fraud to national historical incident. So her little trick becomes the stuff of legends. So in 1933, she's doing a seance in Edinburgh. I even pronounced that right. And the spirit named Peggy shows up. Now, Peggy apparently is very chatty, as her name would probably intend. Probably because Peggy is actually Helen, who's just going to pretend to throw up some stuff soon. But this guy, Essen Mall, he's at the the seance, and he's just like, you know what? I want to get proof of this. So he's like, I'm going to touch the ectoplasm tonight. But he doesn't tell anybody about that. So Helen coughs up her crap, puts it all over her face, and then Esson, he's just like, yoink, and he just grabs the ectoplasm off her face without telling anyone. He literally jumps across the table and grabs, what's supposed to be a ghost, and it turns out it's just pantyhose on Helen Duncan's face that she had swallowed earlier. So the spiritual became physical very quickly, and now he has a handful of spit-covered pantyhose, in his hands, and so he's just like, you know what? Jail. So he literally takes this woman and drags her down to the local constabulary, and on May 11th, 1933, she is convicted of fraudulent mediumship. That was the official charges, and fined £10.
What's funny about that? Two things. One, I have to shout out Alice in the back door who said it was spooky.
That's good. Very spooky.
Also, wait, what was she charged with? Say that one more time. Was it fraudulent
mediumship?
Which alludes to the fact that there is legitimate mediumship in legal parlance.
And this is in 1933. Like, we already have light bulbs and stuff.
Which I gotta say, like, if you go deep enough, if you go into like CIA or like into the all of the MIs, MI5 or whatever, I'm sure that we all know they've all practiced trying to use mediums, maybe some to better effect than others, but
that's like the whole background of Stranger Things, which is based on a true story. Well, it's based on true tests that they tried to do. Anyways,
which one? What
Stranger Things? The Montauk incidents.
Montauk.
Yeah.
Yep.
So apparently, for £10, that's all you get charged for defrauding grieving families by pretending to vomit up their dead relatives. So your punishment is basically like a parking ticket. So it's like, why would you ever stop? Does Helen actually learn her lesson from any of this? Does she think maybe I should go back to bleaching and stop pretending to be dead people and getting people's hopes up? No. She's like, nah,
no.
I got a good clientele. So she doubles down on ghost vomiting because apparently there's good money in it. So fast forward almost 10 years. It's 1941 now. And this is where Helen Duncan accidentally stumbles into becoming a national security interest. So she's doing another seance. She's regurgitating her usual selection of fabric store remnants when suddenly a spirit shows up claiming to be a sailor from the HMS Barham. And this spirit tells everyone that the ship has actually been sunk. Right? This is World War. We're talking World War stuff. So here's the problem. HMS Barham had actually been torpedoed and sunk that year. Killed 862 people. But the British government was like, we're not going to announce that because that would be sad. And that would make people not want to do wartime stuff.
Yeah.
And so they're like, yeah, we lost this ship and everyone on it, but we're just going to pretend that it's still out doing maneuvers. And we're not going to tell everyone that it sank. So then when Helen Duncan has conjured a spirit that says, no, the ship sank, the government's like, how do you know that when we haven't told anybody? So now it becomes a big deal, right? Because she's like, oh yeah, the ship sank, but the government's like, no, it didn't, even though it did. So now authorities are just like, what do we do? Like this lady is literally giving out secrets now at her seances. Like, so they're like, is she real or did she just make a lucky guess? Nobody knows. So they're like watching her now, right? They're like, well, it's not, the news isn't spreading a lot. We're just going to watch you now. So a couple years go by. It's January 19th, 1944. And they're just like, you know what? We're going to move. So the police decided to raid one of Helen's seances, which was, the location they chose was conveniently near a Royal Navy base. So that's weird. So they send in an undercover officer whose job is to just grab the ectoplasm, which is, it worked before. She got, sent to her little parking ticket, $10 fine. So we're going to do that again. We're just going to grab the ectoplasm, show everyone that it's not real. But Helen has gotten better at this whole ghost vomiting thing, and the officer actually can't grab the ectoplasm. She's gotten a little bit smarter about it. So now all these people are like, we saw spirits, and she's like, yeah, you did. And the person was like, I tried to grab it, but it was not, I couldn't grab it. So they're like, is this real? And they're just like, no, it's not real, even though we couldn't prove that you're wrong. So they arrest her anyways with no evidence. And they end up charging Helen Duncan with 7 counts under the Witchcraft Act of 1735. So this is a 200-year-old. Yeah, so it's a 200-year-old plus law, and they're arresting her for it. So in 1944, while fighting Nazi Germany, the British government arrests a lady for witchcraft. That's her official charges. So the trial becomes a 7-day spectacle in London's Old Bailey. So they've got defense witnesses like historian Alfred Dodd coming in to testify that Helen's spiritualism is legit and authentic, while the prosecution is trying to prove that swallowing and regurgitating fabric constitutes fraudulent conjuring of spirits. So the judge is having to explain to a jury that the legal issue isn't whether or not ghosts are real, but whether Helen Duncan is lying about being able to summon them or not. He literally told that to the jury. We're not here to debate whether ghosts are real. So he's basically saying, you can't, even if you think ghosts are fake, that's not what you're here for.
Yeah.
Like, you're here to decide whether she actually is a fraud or not. So the judge is having to explain this. During the trial, Helen apparently cries out for no reason, I have done nothing. Is there a God? Like, that was just unprompted. She just yells that out for no reason, which is an interesting question when you're on trial pretending to have supernatural powers, questioning if God is real or not. But you're like, no, but I have supernatural powers, but God's not real.
Right. Well, you're going to get some followers.
Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah. So, yeah, she's out here just trying to throw smoke. And, well, what do you think the jury does? Guilty or not guilty?
oh God. I'm going to say it was a hung jury.
They convicted her.
They did. Oh,
Yep.
okay.
And Helen Duncan became the last woman in Britain sentenced under the Witchcraft Act. She gets 9 months in Holloway Prison, which means she did more time than most people got for actual theft, like strong arm robbery.
Yeah.
But that's different. So, and so she gets thrown in jail. She can't do any more seances. Winston Churchill actually comments on it, saying that the whole thing was, quote, absolute tomfoolery, end quote.
A waste of time and taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, and this is all, remember, this is literally during World War II. This is all going on.
Yeah.
So Prime Minister of Britain, the man coordinating the Allied war effort, has to take time out of his day to comment whether a Scottish woman vomiting up fabric straps constitutes a threat to national security. So, meanwhile, the Ministry of Defense is keeping actual surveillance files on Helen Duncan while also dealing with Adolf Hitler. So
yeah, I was gonna say there's somebody in the military who's like, wait, before we put her to death, let's see if we can find out who she's working for. So they bring her in and they're like, Helen, you got a pretty big charge against you. You're looking at death for being a witch. But we can make your life easier. Tell us who you're working for. And she's like, Satan.
Satan.
And they're like, all right, that's something we can work with. Let's see, we'll take death off the table if you'll give us his address. She's like, hell. They're like, all right, what about his phone number? It's 666. All right. Thank you, Helen. We're done here.
You may go. When she was released on September 22nd, 1944.
She was?
Yeah. She got out of jail. She got out of jail on September 22nd, 1944. And does she retire from the ghost business? Does she perhaps consider getting imprisoned for witchcraft might be a sign to find a new career? No. She immediately goes back to doing seances. She actually is arrested again in 1956 in Nottingham, but this time they didn't find any evidence of fraud, so she got better at hiding her vomitus, and maybe she even was believing her own act. Either way, Helen Duncan, she gets arrested, right? They start investigating. 1956, they can't find anything, and they're like, well, you can go. And she's like, cool. She took that a little too literally and died. So she's like, she literally left off this mortal coil when they said she could go. So she actually passed away in 1956. And, but in 1951, 5 years before that, the Witchcraft Act of 1735 was repealed because of her going to jail as a witch. So now it became...
That's why it was repealed? Yeah. It was because of her? It wasn't like somebody in Parliament going, this is stupid.
Yes, because they actually didn't necessarily... They repealed it, but they really just changed it, and they changed it to the Fraudulent Mediums Act. It was basically the same thing, just newer words, because we don't talk about witches anymore as if they're real. So now we have Fraudulent Mediums Act. So her career ended with modernizing British law. So in 1954, just some other background stuff, spiritualism actually gained legal recognition as an actual religion in England. So Helen Duncan went from being a bleachery worker to becoming the last person convicted of witchcraft in Britain, and accidentally stumbled into espionage concerns, and then actually helped reform centuries-old legal codes. So that's a little bit of Helen Duncan's life, all because she figured out that people would pay money to watch her throw up fabric and pretend it was her dead relatives. And through all of the arrests and everything, there was people who believed she was legit. And except for her own husband, who after her death said, yeah, she used cheesecloth and pantyhose. She wasn't real.
But what's crazy is there was probably still a fan club where even though he said what happened, they're like, no, we still believe. Like, if you think about it, anything you do, you have a likelihood. Like, if you put anything out there where you're trying to peddle something, the likelihood is you'll find someone to bite. We have 12 fans of this show. Okay. All right. I mean, case in point.
Some of the craziest cults started out that way.
It's true. Yeah. And the only thing I wish I could figure out that all of those cults have in common is I can't quite figure out how to monetize this well enough without killing people. I mean, that's where things get hard, is like, how do you make enough without having to murder? And that's
why everyone gets caught.
Yeah, half of me is like, it's a bridge too far. That's, you look into for this any further, Sam, you're gonna be crossing over into dangerous territory. And then the other half of me is like, but Bean needs to be fed. So, Kool-Aid.
But I want to put an icon suspension on the HUD dealer vehicle.
But the 99 Suburb is not working well.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, that was very entertaining, Chase. Thanks for bringing that to our attention.
You're welcome. So what did you bring to our earballs today?
Okay, so if I said to you, who is the first person that you ever, like, who's the first person that the world ever heard of that was murdered? What would you?
Abel.
Yeah, most people would be like, Abel, Cain killed Abel.
Mm-hmm.
But then if I asked for proof, it'd get a little harder. Like,
okay,
the Bible. We don't. What?
Because I'd say the Bible says.
The Bible is God's word, so it happened, and that's proof enough for me. And
parables aren't a thing.
Yes, back to people will believe something as long as you make an effort to put it out there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's fine. But if we were looking for, like, let's say you had to have proof enough that you could take it to court. Where is the evidence of the first murdered person? And what I brung is that evidence of the first person as we know it right now in this day and age in history, the first murdered person.
I have one. Okay. Nicole Brown Simpson.
Well, she didn't get murdered. According to the results, she didn't. No, I guess she did get murdered, but we didn't think it was OJ. Yeah. Nope, you're wrong. It took place a couple years before that, actually. So the first murdered person, if you compress the entire history of our species into a single day, like midnight to midnight, this story that I'm about to tell you happens about 25 minutes before the clock runs out. Okay? So, entire history of our species, the human species, midnight to midnight. This one takes place 25 minutes before the clock runs out. So civilization is barely stretching. Agriculture is still new enough to feel like it's experimental. Like, there's people that are like, it's never going to work. You know, some guy's out planting corn in his field, and there's people in town that are like, what a fool. It's never going to work. We're not going to be able to eat that crap. Copper was a cutting edge material of the time, and somewhere high in the Alps, one man decides that another man has to die. So the pre-dawn light had only just begun to thin in the darkness when the watcher saw his target leave the village. This wasn't a dramatic village. There weren't stone walls, there wasn't towers everywhere, just a small Copper Age settlement tucked against the foothills of what are now the Italian Alps. Fun fact to know and share. Did you know that the Italians had Alps? I didn't know it.
Alps?
I didn't know it until I wrote this. So, the man this stalker followed set off alone. So, moving with the confidence of someone who had walked these paths since childhood, because that's the way villagers worked. You grew up in a village, you stayed in the village, you did the village things. He angled into the woods, weaving through familiar terrain, avoiding the steep gorge of the Val Sanalis, the way experienced travelers did, by climbing higher and dipping lower, then climbing again. The watcher waited. When the man disappeared upslope, the watcher finally gathered his things: sheep hide undergarments, goatskin leggings, as was in vogue at the time, a coat stitched from grass and sheepskin, cinched tight with a belt, leather boots stuffed with fresh hay for insulation, a wood-framed pack with dried goat meat inside, a flint knife tucked in his waist, a deerskin quiver across his back, and longbow slung over one shoulder. He wasn't a large dude. He was about 5.5 feet tall, but he was wiry and he was strong and conditioned for altitude. So his legs were mountain legs, his lungs were mountain lungs, and he moved the way people move when the terrain has been training them since childhood. So he followed the man steadily, never rushing. He knew where the trail was going to end, and he knew it would crest at the high trading path across the Ötztal Alps, a route only recently cleared by the spring melt. So he kept himself south of what would one day be called the Similon Pass, avoiding thick forests and blind ravines. When he reached the ridge, he saw a thin wisp of smoke rising from a shallow gully ahead. Someone had stopped to eat. So the watcher eased the bow from his shoulder. He pulled an arrow from the quiver. He crept forward, and then 5,300 years later, 2 modern hikers stumbled onto the aftermath. In September of 1991, a warm summer had melted back a patch of snow high along the Austrian-Italian border. In a shallow trench near the pass, something dark emerged. There was a twisted arm. A face was locked in a grimace that looked disturbingly like human, despite its age. The hikers assumed they had found a recent casualty, someone maybe lost to the winter storms. So the authorities were called. As the body was jackhammered free, the skin told a different story. It wasn't decomposed. It wasn't skeletonized. It was freeze-dried. It was leathery, and the whole thing was intact. So at first, examiners suspected maybe like a World War I soldier that was preserved by the ice. Then they saw all the equipment. So beside the body lay a copper axe, beautifully made, perfectly balanced, astonishingly rare. Copper tools like this weren't just old, they were elite, the kind of thing you didn't just lose casually. So archaeologists realized immediately this was something that was unprecedented. So the man was nicknamed Ötzi after the mountain where he died. Radiocarbon dating placed him more than 2,000 years before King Tut.
Mm-hmm.
So his true significance wasn't his age. Bones far older than that are found regularly, but was his condition. So a glacier had effectively closed over him shortly after death, sealing him in a shallow hollow like a freezer door sliding shut. The result was preservation on a scale that no one had ever seen. So DNA, skin, his fingernails, organs, hair, eyes, even the contents of his stomach were all preserved. Scientists learned his hair color. They picked out his eye color, his final meal. He had tattoos. He had dozens of tattoos. Some were positioned directly over arthritic joints. His medical problems, his parasites, the precise valley where he was born, identified by the mineral composition of his teeth. So researchers reconstructed his vocal cords and determined his voice would have been raspy and deep, something like a human bullfrog, maybe with authority. You can actually find a YouTube video of the reconstruction of his vocal cords and then passing air through them to see what it would sound like. It's pretty wild. So pollen trapped in his digestive tract allowed scientists to retrace his final route step by step through the mountains that he traipsed. For nearly a decade, debate simmered over how Ötzi died. Was it exposure? Maybe it was illness. Did he fall? Until a radiologist spotted what everyone else had missed. a flint arrowhead buried beneath his left collarbone. So the arrow had severed the subclavian artery, the main blood supply to the arm. Even on a modern operating table, that injury is often fatal. Subclavian artery, you got the femoral artery in your leg, where if they're cut thorough enough, you don't even have minutes to live, you've got seconds. Like if you cut your femoral artery, you got 15 seconds before your body's going to empty its blood supply. So on a windswept mountain pass 5,000 years ago, it would have killed him in minutes in this case. Otzi hadn't died by accident. He was murdered. Violence, of course, was nothing new at that time, so anthropologists once believed homicide emerged with cities and states, that people only started killing each other once they lived too close together. Like they figured that the pressure of population was a factor in murder becoming in vogue. That theory didn't survive contact with evidence, though. Chimpanzees kill each other at rates exceeding humans. I didn't know that either. Hunter-gatherer societies often experience chronic, small-scale violence that rivals modern war zones when adjusted for population and size. So we've always been good at killing, apparently. What was new, at least emerging in this case, was the idea that killing might sometimes be wrong, that cooperation had survival value, that murder might bring consequences. And once murder carried risk, something new appeared alongside it, a cover-up. So Otzi's death represents the first solid archaeological evidence, not just of a homicide, but of someone trying to get away with it. So investigators eventually began asking the only question that mattered: who killed him? So let's call the killer, in this case, Juvali, after the region he likely came from. Not Jumanji, but
Jumanji.
Frickin' Juvali. He's always killing people. So statistically, it's almost certainly a man. 96% of homicides today are committed by men, and this pattern stretches deep into human history, so we'll just apply it in this case to 5,300 years ago. So Juvali was probably born into a farming or a herding community, descended from pastoralists who had migrated out of Anatolia, probably generations earlier. Newcomers, these guys, brought agriculture and domesticated animals, permanent villages, which was kind of a new thing because everybody was always sort of traveling. They were very mobile. And they also brought violence. All that was brought into Europe slowly, kind of displaced the hunter-gatherers through conflict and disease. So we'd beat them up or we'd give them a cold, and then we'd stay. So Juvali was likely short, and he was lean, and he was tough. Probably had poor nutrition, would have stunted his growth. Constant movement across steep terrain would have hardened his legs and destroyed his joints. So his diet, probably heavy in starch, probably left him with cavities and chronic illness. Early farmers lived worse than the hunter-gatherers. They replaced trading dietary diversity for predictability that often would fail him ultimately. He had disease everywhere. There were parasites and there was arthritis, Lyme disease, ulcers. Even so, these people weren't completely helpless. They practiced surprisingly advanced medicine. So there was antibacterial fungi, charcoal packed into joints through puncture wounds to ease inflammation. Like it was practical solutions they were devising for pain, fixing pain. So Juvali might have been a herder. The Alps still echo with cowbells today. You know, their herding has always been dominated in that area, in those foothills. More importantly, herding cultures tended to be violent, more violent. So a farmer's wealth in the ground, a herder's wealth walks around vulnerable to theft, right? So without courts or police around, retaliation became a currency amongst the herding populations. And overreaction becomes deterrence. So somebody steals a sheep, you go like kill his whole family and then nobody steals your sheep for a while. So all of that sounds like I'm making up a story, but the archaeological evidence in the records supports it. So skeletons were riddled with arrowheads in some cases in that area, smashed skulls, there were strangulation marks. One Swedish burial ground from this era, that same era, 5,300 years ago, 10% of deaths were violent compared to modern rates that barely register by comparison. So Otzi's murder wouldn't have shocked his contemporaries. There was something that was really different about it, though. When modern investigators revisited the case, robbery was ruled out immediately. So Otzi's copper axe, an object of enormous status and value at that time, was left behind. So no rival clan would have passed that up. So if the killer took nothing, it meant taking something would have pointed directly back to him. So maybe that's why. In other words, in this case, the killer knew the victim, because if he's suddenly found wandering around with Otzi's axe and nobody can find Otzi, guess who's going to get clobbered? Some more clues followed. So Otzi had a deep cut on his hand. It was a classic defensive wound, partially healed, suggesting a violent encounter 2 days earlier. So his flint knife was broken, likely snapped in a recent fight. Someone else's blood was found on his cloak. So the implications were really clear in this case. Otzi had injured or killed someone shortly before his own death. So revenge is old. It's older than law, older than morality, older than memory. On his final day, Otzi stopped high in the mountains and ate a meal of bread cooked over a small fire, some meat. Carbon traces in his stomach placed the meal about 30 minutes before his death. He wasn't fleeing. He wasn't panicked in this case. He didn't know he was being hunted. So Javali took position roughly 100 feet away for a prehistoric bow. That was an extraordinary shot. Even modern hunters prefer closer ranges than that for their modern bows. So he may have buried the body in snow, either intentionally or incidentally sealing it in ice for 5,000 years. And then he just walked away. So Javali followed Otzi into the mountains, not just to kill him, but to make sure no one would ever know why. The isolation wasn't really necessary for the act. It was necessary for the aftermath. And in that calculation, cold, deliberate, strategic, we see something similarly, chillingly familiar. First murder didn't begin with a body. It began with someone who understood that if the truth stayed hidden long enough, it might disappear forever. And in this case, it didn't, but at least it got him out of, like, his time period.
Yeah. We're talking about him now, so.
Yeah, 5,300. He's probably wherever he is on the other side going, crap. Figured that one. And whoever else like lived with him at the time is also watching us discover Otzi's body going, freaking Javali. I knew it all along. I knew it.
Have you ever watched Ghosts? The original British version?
Yeah.
One of my favorite scenes ever is the Neanderthal guy where someone says something about like, oh, do we all just descend from Robin? And he's like, yeah, me and my sister. And then they're all just like, what the hell? And he kind of goes, haha, just kidding. And then he turns away and he's just like shaking his head like literally everyone on Earth actually did descend from him and his sister. Yeah, me and my sister.
Dope.
Yeah. And he says it on accident. And he's like, oh yeah, I was just joking. It was just a joke, everyone.
Well, yeah, it's one of those shows where like they've tried to redo it, American versions and stuff. And It's kind of funny because like The Office was born out of a British comedy, and the American version has such weight, I guess, that it overshadows. But to this day, I feel like the British version is better. It's got, I mean, Michael Scott was cringe, but nothing beats the original. Nothing.
Well, I think a lot of those shows, it's about who the characters are, who's playing them, and not necessarily the characters.
Yeah.
Because the show, the In-Betweeners, from the mid 2000s
Yep.
in Great Britain, it was a huge hit there, right? Massive hit. And they literally tried to make one. MTV bought it for the American rights. And I watched the first 2 episodes of the American version. They're literally hitting the exact same jokes.
Yeah. Yes.
Like literally
the script
line
is almost
for
word
line.
for word.
It's almost word for word, and the American version sucks. And because it wasn't the jokes as much as it's the actors who are like delivering the jokes and how they deliver the jokes, and the timing and all that stuff like matters a lot.
Yep.
So you can have a word for word, shot for shot remake. Yeah. And one is 10 times better
because of delivery. Yeah, The Office, there are whole chunks of The Office that share between the American and the British version. Some I don't know why they did it. Like Top Gear, 1000% British. Should have never been done in any kind of other repurposing of it. The Office, I would say it dodged the bullet of jumping the shark, or whatever you'd like to call it, where you try to repurpose it for another audience. Little Britain, 1000% a British show. Don't try to do an American version of Little Britain. I mean, I watched it just because I'm a huge fan of Little Britain, but yeah. No, and I mean, there are a lot of people that are like, they've got their opinions of Ricky Gervais, but my opinion of Ricky Gervais in that was like, his delivery was perfect for what he did. People would compare him to, the American counterpart, but I don't know. It's one of those independents. But I got a TV show that I'm watching right now that I would highly recommend. If you're into British shows, there's a streaming service called BritBox, and you can subscribe to it independently, or if you already have Amazon Prime or
that's
a couple other
or whatever.
Yeah, you can get it as an add-on. Roku, you can add it as an app on the Roku. But BritBox has a lot of really good British TV series, and I just finished Blue Lights, which I think there was 2 or 3 seasons of that. It was really good. I really liked it. It's Irish. It gives you this glimpse into the police forces in Ireland, which it's so wild how different it is there than here. Like, you'll be aghast at how the public treats police in Ireland if the show is accurate, where police will like show up to a crime scene, and then everyone in the town starts like coming out and surrounding the police and like throwing stuff at them. And like nobody gets arrested for like battery on a Leo. Like nobody. They just like, we got to get out of here. And like they peace out. It's wild. But
it's like St. Louis.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like wherever ICE is right now. Wherever ICE is right now, that's Ireland on the daily. That's, and we're all like, all right, we're just going to let it happen, I guess,
Yeah.
But it's very interesting. But you have to know Ireland's history to understand why they are so divisive and why violence is so fundamental on the streets. It really comes down. I mean, it's the IRA. It comes down to some pretty bombing level in history in Ireland. But so Blue Lights, if you're looking for a TV series, really good. Like, it really kept my attention, and the seasons were well crafted. Another one I'm in right now, which I really love, it's called Ludwig. And the premise is there's twins, and one turns into this like hermit crossword genius. He creates puzzles. He develops all the puzzles that you play in the crosswords, or all the puzzles in the New York Times or whatever. So he becomes this genius, closeted, doesn't want to interact with anybody, has a phone that his sister-in-law gave him for Christmas like a decade ago. It's a Nokia. It's one of those ones that are indestructible, but he never uses it, right? His twin brother becomes a police officer, a DCI in the police force, and he's an investigator, and he's really good at it apparently. Well, his brother, the DCI, he disappears. So his wife, because he leads a normal life, he's not like the super closeted hermit. His wife calls him. He's like, I need your help figuring out where he's at. And then the whole thing plays out. So he's a twin. So he comes back, and she's like, you have to pretend to be him. He was away on an investigation.
Oh, okay.
You have to show up at the police station and be like, just act, but you have to figure out what happened. So this guy's a genius at puzzles. So right away he goes in, and he's so autistic. It's crazy, right? He shows up, and he's trying to act normal. He starts like solving murders like instantly. He's like, oh, wow, this guy did it. And like, they're like, how do you know? And he's like, beep, boop, boop. And he like solved. So on a daily, he's the sister-in-law has him going in to try to figure out where her husband is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he keeps getting distracted by solving murders. And the police department is like, this is amazing. He's making the newspaper. She wakes him up one morning, hits him with the newspaper. She's like, you made the newspaper again because he solved another murder. He's like, I'm sorry. So
Oops.
it's really unique. It's very funny. And it's pretty clean too. Like, there's not a lot of swearing or anything in it. I'm probably the only one that cares about that, but Ludwig, if you're into another series, it's fun. Anyway, Chase, I think that's all we got, right?
I think so. That's all I got.
Hour and a half. It feels about right. It feels about our pace. So, well, it's 2026. We got exciting things coming at 11:59. I've learned my lesson. I've realized that I don't get dopamine drips from accomplishing things like normal people, and I don't get dopamine drips from the idea or prospect of tackling a project. I get dopamine drips by telling you what's coming, and that typically works out where I tell you, and then my brain says, it came, and it didn't come yet. So I don't say what's coming anymore to keep myself motivated to keep moving toward the thing that's coming until I can announce it and it's actually here. So
gotta defer them dopamine drips.
Yeah. So a deferred dopamine drip from Sam to 11:59 is, we got stuff coming, and it's pretty cool. But until then, at least until Thursday, when we'll be back, that's all we got. So
that's all we got.
Soup, soup, everybody.
Bye.
So, soup, soup, let's start the show.